Yo, what's up guys? Today I'm going to be showing you the best Rocket League settings for 2023 that I use in pro RLCS games. While some settings may vary and debatably be up to personal preference, I do believe that some settings and controls are more efficient than others. I'll be going over each specific setting that I use and explaining them throughout the video. Gonna be starting off with the gameplay tab. There's not really any ideal settings here. It's mostly just for internet optimization and some other miscellaneous options. I have all of these on high along with my input buffer on default. Some people may switch their input buffer to STS or CSTS if they're having any internet issues, as it can sometimes help. Next up, we're going to be going over my current camera settings. Some other pros change their camera settings quite a lot, but I like to keep mine consistent as I feel it allows me to improve steadily and I don't get any placebo effects because of having quote unquote stale camera settings. I've been using these specific camera settings for I'd say the last year or so. I'm hoping you guys already know this, but please turn camera shake off. You're here to devote thousands of hours into the game of car soccer, not to experience an earthquake simulation. My FOV is at 109, most people use between 107 and 110. I used to be on 110, but I believe Justin started somewhat of a trend by using 109, so I switched to it a while back because, you know, Justin. For distance, I'm on 270. 270 is by far the most common distance setting. Some people may use 260 or 280, but the majority of other Rocket League pros are on 270. As for the height, I have it at 100. Most people bounce between 90 to 110, but you definitely want to use 90, 100, or 110 and stay in that range. My angle is -3. Most people either use -5 or -3. I've found -3 to be more comfortable, but you can try out -5 and -3 to determine what you like better. Unless you're trying to stare directly into the ground with no vision of the field whatsoever, then feel free to use -15. Guys, I'm joking. Please, dear God, don't use -15, just use -3. For stiffness, I use 0.40. What stiffness does is it basically controls how far away your camera is from your car when you're going supersonic or gaining speed. A long time ago, I used to use 1, but a stiffness between 0.35 and 0.50 is way more ideal, so I'd highly suggest you use something in that range. I found 0.40 or 0.45 to be the most popular. Swivel speed controls how fast your camera moves around when turning or power sliding. I use 5 for this, but honestly, I haven't experimented with it at all, and I'm not sure what most pros use. I think this setting is mostly preference as long as you aren't using something outrageously fast or slow. For transition speed, I use 1.2. I used to be on 1, but recently higher transition speeds have become more popular. Transition speed controls how quick your camera snaps between ball cam and free cam. Before we continue, I'd like to ask for your help and try and raise this number up. Currently around 13% of viewers are subscribed, so I'd appreciate it greatly if we could get that number up. Now moving on to the controls tab. For sensitivities, I use 1.3 for both steering and aerial. Sensitivity settings can vary pretty widely. There's some players like Monkey Moon who use 3 or even higher on both. Then there's some players like First Killer who use around 1.3 as well. I found the range from 1.1 to 2 to be ideal and controllable. My controller dead zone is 0.05. The lower you can set this, the better, but you can only set it so low without stick drift affecting you, which makes your car turn without you touching the joystick. So I'd say to keep this at a lowest of 0.05. If you notice your car turning without you steering it, you might want to turn this up a little bit to prevent that. I would highly recommend you turn vibration off as well. Please uncheck that. I'm not trying to have my whole handshake mid-game. Oh my god, it's such a horrible setting. Actually awful. It's just... As for my actual controls, here's the changes I have compared to the default controller settings. I have arrow right on R1, I have arrow left on L1, and I have a scoreboard on L3. I never bothered to change my normal air roll, power slide, or boost bind. I haven't had any issues with difficulty of using normal air roll or boost, but I would recommend changing power slide to either R1 or L1, because excessive use of power slide while having it on square can get tedious. I haven't changed it because I've already built up so much muscle memory that it's just not worth it. Now for the interface tab. Honestly, most of these settings in this tab are more so preference, but there definitely are settings that are more ideal. I have interface and display scale at 100%. Haven't had any problems with those, and to my knowledge, most other players have that at 100 as well. As for my nameplate scale, I have it at 130%. I find 100% too small to see the nameplates quickly and clearly, and I'd say anything higher than 150% is too big. I have my nameplate mode at default, and I do have all match notifications on, Some have this changed, but I like to see the pop-up of all important timestamps. For all of these checks, to my knowledge, this layout is pretty standard for what pros have checked and unchecked. I won't go through each of these individually, as most of them are self-explanatory. Moving on to the video tab, here are all of my graphic settings. I have my display mode on full screen. This is important, make sure you have vertical sync off. It adds input delay and no pros have this on. As for the basic settings, make sure you have anti-aliasing off, or else your game is going to look like you're playing Super Mario Kart in 1992 on an SNES. Render detail should be custom and your frames per second can vary based on how good of a display you have. My monitor is 360Hz, so that's why I have it set to 360 FPS. But your display can only show as many frames per second as the hertz that it supports. So if you have a 60Hz display and set your FPS to 240, you're only going to see 60 still. Now the advanced settings. Obviously you could put these graphics higher to make your game look nicer, but most, if not all, and I'm pretty sure it's all pros, use these exact advanced settings. Texture detail should be high performance, world detail should be performance, particle detail should be performance, and effect intensity should be low intensity. As for the following checkboxes, I have all boxes unchecked. Especially weather effects, not trying to be going for air dribbles and get frame drops because there's 3,000 line streaks flying down my monitor. Moving on to audio settings, I highly doubt you want the exact same audio settings as me, but here's what I have. The important points here are that I have music playlist, music gameplay, ambient, and crowd volume as 0. I have player anthems off because I'm not trying to get rickrolled after getting air dribble bumped for the 5th time in the same game because some of these players have no skill. Moving on to the chat tab, this is also something that's very preference based that you could probably determine what's best for you on your own. But here are my chat settings and the binds in specific quick chats if you're interested. Alright, well those are all of my settings that I've used throughout my professional career. So far. In the future, if I make any significant changes to these, I'll be sure to update the video, or maybe make a 2024 and beyond version so I can farm views because these settings videos always go crazy and I will gladly farm the views any day of the week. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, maybe hit this button, or this button, or this button. I appreciate all the support as always. Now that you've completely copied my settings and will now instantly rank up to Supersonic Legend, click here to see the new potential NRG roster in action taking on the Rank 2's jungle.